joined by Matt Bernard, the developer of Lil Guardsman. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Matt?
Yes, name and
Lil.
my name and the game title, absolutely.
Fantastic. Can I say, you're making me feel like my beard and moustache are nowhere near smart and spiffy enough. That is
If
an
I could grow
incredible look.
like yours, I would. This is all just to distract from the lack of cheek action.
Are you telling me it just grows like that? You're not doing anything here. That's just how it comes out.
No, I wish. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the mornings twirling it and brushing it just to get it right.
My beard will not do that. It has the unruly whims of a Scottish clansman, and I cannot get a curl going here. Well, thank you so much for joining the stream, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
You've developed and released a game called Lil Guardsman. So
Yeah.
please tell me a little bit about the game and about yourself.
I'm primarily a comedy writer living in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and got into the game development scene specifically for Lil Guardsman. The director of Hilltop, Scott Christian, was a friend of mine. We did a show together about 10 years ago. And one day he called me and goes, "Oh, do you want to, write some comedy for a game pitch?" And the inner nerd in me just like screamed with excitement. So I'm like, "Yes, absolutely, I do." And we started writing the scripts and coming up with characters. And then I slowly got into the game design of it, and then found my way into the voice directing role for the game. And that game is Lil Guardsman. It's a lovingly called a child labor simulator, where you play as Lil, a 12-year-old girl in charge of a castle gate, and you're in the guard shed, and you decide who comes into the kingdom and who doesn't, and who goes to jail. And all those decisions have an effect on the kingdom and ultimately the end of the game.
So a classic "you shall not pass" or maybe "you shall pass" kind
You
of
shall,
scenario.
yeah. You maybe will shall pass.
And you mentioned voice directing there. The look and sound of the game, it's hit a niche that I guess it strikes me as being in that sort of CalArts, Cartoon Network, Steven Universe kind of world.
Mm-hmm.
Is that did it take a lot of work to sort of nail that style?
That style was always in our minds going into the game. And we had, I think the other founder of Hilltop, Artem, was doing the art originally, and it was very kind of pencil sketchy, very, very kind of rough. And then we put it out there to artists kind of all over the world, an open call. And we had a lot of artists submit, and we had two of them that stepped up, Bruno and Hafa from Colombia, I believe. And their style just instantly connected with us. We're like, yes, that's the look. Very rounded, bubbly, and just fun and light cartoon style that we just knew would fit the tone and the heart of the game.
I'm going to say a word here, and the word is cute. Is that fair? Are we talking, if I can say that on the stream, are we talking about cuteness? Is that
absolutely cuteness? Yeah, we wanted that Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah, we wanted that Saturday morning cartoon, cutesy feel, because we always wanted this game to be a lighter Papers, Please, not so grim and bleak and anxiety-inducing as Papers, Please. So the cute animation style certainly helped with that.
Now that's interesting. You've mentioned Papers, Please there. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, if you might be familiar with Francisco Gonzalez, adventure game developer who's made tons of terrific games like Lamplight City, and he has I think he describes it as something like that reminds me of Monkey Island effect, which is if you're making anything in the area of a narrative game or an adventure game, point and click, a 2D game even, someone at some point is going to say to you, "Hey, you know what this is just like? It really reminds me of Monkey Island."
It's unavoidable.
Which is, even if it's nothing like Monkey Island. Now that can be a good thing and a bad thing, but you mentioned Papers, Please. You're consciously sort of saying, "Hey, this is a little bit like Papers, Please." Does that have benefits and drawbacks in terms of pitching it to people?
I think, like anything, it certainly had benefits because the kind of core mechanic was very lifted from Papers, Please, in the sense that you're in a booth deciding the fate of people coming in or out of a city or a kingdom. And to compare it to Monkey Island, we did off the at the starting line wanted to make a humorous game, and the LucasArts Monkey Island games, you can't deny, like there's such a good heart of humor in them. So to be compared to Papers, Please is kind of like what's under the hood, the engine of the game. Yeah, it's mechanics, paper, please. But to be compared to LucasArts in the sense of humor and heart and story, I think that was a fantastic connection that we wanted people to look for and discover, and we're just pleased that people are comparing it to that.
Now, you've been on the project from writing to all the way to voice casting and voice directing, by the sounds of it. Now, writing jokes for games isn't necessarily easy. You said you worked with one of the other developers in a show, in a live show. You have an audience there telling you something's funny. How do you hold your nerve when you're writing a funny game? How do you convince yourself after you've heard a line 1,000 times in editing that it's funny?
It's tough writing humor for, especially this kind of game where a character will come and they'll have a prompt, and then you decide how you respond, and then they'll respond based off that. I mean, the heart of comedy is timing, and we put the timing into the player's hands. The character could come up with a prompt, and you could wait for 5 minutes or 5 hours until you hear the punchline. And we wanted to make sure that the material was solid enough that it didn't need to depend on timing, except of course within the performance of the the spoken line. But in terms of keeping it fresh, I have to say I'm a real sucker for my own jokes. I will constantly find them funny, and even if they're not, I'm my own best audience. So I really do enjoy writing comedy, and then once kind of an original or new joke is created, I just love it. And every time I look at it, it's like looking at a child. I'm like, oh, you're just beautiful, kind of thing. And the luster never wears off for me.
That's interesting. Now, okay, I have to admit I've written a bit of comedy in my time, and I think comedy in games can be a hard sell, because if I tell you I'm making this horror game and you don't find it scary, that's still quite cool. Like I've enjoyed loads of horror games that didn't actually scare me. But if you say I'm making this comedy game and it doesn't make me laugh, I'm actually angry at you. I'm sending you an email. So what I guess I'm saying, do you think comedy writers are the bravest people in the world?
It's tough because comedy at the base of it is subjective. Somebody will find something funny that somebody else doesn't, and they're both right in a way, except for punching down humor or anything really offensive or mean. I don't think there's any real place for that. But it's tough because you put out, I find this funny. I hope you do too. I hope you share in this joy. And it's kind of, I guess, different with writing horror, because if you're writing horror and you're actually scared by it the whole time, that's kind of a different process. You can't make the game or movie because you can't even watch it. But yeah, it's just it's tough. You hope that people connect to it, and in this case, be it luck or a bit of skill or both, we found that people really connected to it.
So tell me a bit more about the protagonist, Lil. When it comes to how do you create a character that people want to spend time around? Because I think one of the issues that some funny games have is I might say an overly sarcastic protagonist can I say subjectively become tiresome. So in trying to create a character that's going to be there the whole time, how do you approach that?
It was tough. The character was initially conceived by the two founders, Scott and Artem. And so we came into the project, me and the fellow writer on it, Jeremy Lapalm, and Scott did writing as well. We came into having this character already created. So there was already kind of a life to her, an idea, a sassy, kind of know-it-all 12-year-old girl, doesn't take too much.
Very confident, and it's quite a lot of front there. She's very confident of herself.
Confident to talk to goblins and monsters alike.
Which I never would have done when I was 12.
No, not me. I was, but we had to. It was a thin kind of line to make sure she wasn't annoying. And I'm sure there's some parts that people find annoying. Some people find the whole game annoying. Who knows? But
we don't like those people.
No, we get a lot of comments online. Oh, this game's so woke. It's a female protagonist and stuff like that. No time.
What? A female in a video game? This is
probably crazy. Where's the guns? Yeah. No. But it was, part of the charm, I guess, is that you can choose, for the most part, how Lil interacts with these people. So you can have a whole thing where Lil is nice, or a whole thing where she's doubting, being sarcastic. And I guess we didn't want to punch down too much with Lil's humor. We wanted to comment more on the game, kind of break the fourth wall with Lil, so that a lot of the stuff she's sassy or sarcastic about, much like Monkey Island, the protagonist there, Guybrush Threepwood, comment on the actual process and the whole table setting of it all. So yeah, well, we kind of hoped that that would just connect to an audience more than someone watching someone being sarcastic. The sarcasm was kind of in play with the player as well.
That's fantastic. And we are running out of time. This is it's a lot
Jeez.
of fun talking to you. I think we've got a couple of minutes left.
Okay,
So
perfect.
let's say people are watching this and they're absolutely desperate to play the game. That's actually legal, isn't it? It's available to purchase completely straightforwardly through Steam. Tell us about how that works.
You can go on Steam, find it there, and then for download, it's on all platforms or most platforms. Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and just recently, I think I just got them maybe yesterday, or the day before. We got actual, tangible, physical copies of the game, which and
like
over the moon about.
Days.
It was, I know, and then it had a little booklet and all that, and the actual little cartridge for Switch. I got 2 copies myself. I'm framing one, keeping it for future generations, time capsules or whatever. But I think they might be still available. I think it's through Epic Games. I'm not too sure the details of that, but it's definitely available for digital download through Steam and Switch, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, all of that fun stuff.
And before we wrap up, what's the experience? What's the thought, the note, the feeling you want people to take away from playing the game?
Our kind of motto in creating the game and creating the story is that make it fun to fail. So we want you to try things, deny this character, let the wrong person in and see what happens, and see the little blurbs at the end of the day of what that character ended up doing, where they went, and things like that. That was my favorite part to write, and so this character continued on, or whatever it may be. But we wanted to make it fun to fail, so you can just explore and see the different reactions and outcomes of all these wonderful characters.
Yeah, so what if Papers, Please made you feel happy instead of
yes.
guilty?
Instead of anxiety, yeah.
Instead of oh no. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Matt Bernard. Thank you for coming and talking to me about Lil Guardsman.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.